Welcome to I Rise Conversations with Joan. Welcome to I Rise Conversations with Joan, where we discuss the journeys of people who have overcome adversity and achieved success in their lives. My name is Joan Nwosu, and I'm the award-winning author of the book, I Rise, The 10 Secrets to Getting Up When Life Knocks You Down. Today, we have a super special guest with us, Elise Lebeau. For 20 years, she worked as a software engineer in corporate America, while secretly providing intuitive readings to strangers. As a single mom in her 30s, she faced financial challenges and wondered how she was going to manage to pay her mortgage, save for her children's education, and secure her own retirement. Determined to find a solution, she made a life-changing decision when she turned 40. She decided to harness her intuition and use it to optimize every decision she made. Despite facing adversity, including unemployment and battling chronic fatigue syndrome, she achieved remarkable results. By age 43, she was debt-free. By 47, she retired. And by 49, she achieved financial freedom. Through her journey, she created a life that she absolutely loves for herself. And today, she's going to be sharing some of those tips and tricks with us so that we can also create a life that we love. Welcome, Elise, to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
I can't wait to get, because I'm like 49 is around the corner. I need to be financially free now. Well, let's get into it. So maybe before we get into some things around intuition, tell us a little bit about your own personal journey and story and some of the things that led you to being an intuitive coach.
Sure. So I actually was not on track at all to become an intuitive. I studied in psychology. I have a bachelor's and half of a PhD in psychology, which I then abandoned. And this was my first kind of very unclear intuitive decision. But I moved to the United States and I decided to go into engineering, of all things. So I became a software engineer. And while I was pregnant with my son, one day I woke up, and whenever people asked a question in my presence, an answer would pop in my head, like immediately. It was worse if they were asking me, but sometimes people were talking to each other and they would ask a question and something would pop in my head. It was extremely disruptive. I was extremely uncomfortable with this, having been in a science lab for most of my PhD in psychology. I was a little worried about psychosis. So I went to the doctor, actually got checked out by a psychologist to make sure I wasn't going crazy. And then I suppressed it for a very long time. And I denied that it was there. I thought, oh, that's just me making stories up, making stuff up. And then eventually I realized that whenever I did speak up, and I wouldn't call it speak up, but I would kind of blurt out stuff that had popped in my head, people would go, oh my God, that's so true. That is so true. And it would resonate with them. And it was an interesting feeling, both for me and for them. We were both surprised, both of us. I was the most reluctant intuitive that you could find on the market. And so this is how I started to give intuitive reading in secret, because I didn't want my employer to find out I was doing this. It was not compatible with my everyday life. But this is how it started. Now, the one thing that was super frustrating for me is that even though over and over again, I would get people saying, oh my gosh, that is so true. I had one email I saved that this person said, you have answered in the first 10 minutes of your readings, the question I've been asking myself all my life. She said that to me. And I thought, holy cow, that's huge. So I kept doing the readings for this, but I could not do it for myself. This was super frustrating. I could do it for other people, but when it came to me, I had also this self-doubt. Is that intuition? Is that not? Am I making this up? This kinds of stuff. And so that thing that happened when I turned 40 is I thought, you know what? Enough of this. I'd been giving readings for about 10 years by then. And I said, you know what? I'm going to reverse engineer the process that I do for other people so I can use it for myself. And that's how I became an intuition coach, because I wanted to teach other women how to do this, because otherwise they had to keep coming to me. And I didn't like that. It was disempowering. And I want, women, the people who work with me, to feel really powerful in their lives, like they're in control, they don't know what's going on. So I didn't want them to have to come back to me and ask for a reading. Instead, I wanted to teach them, here's how you can do it. And once I was able to slow this down in slow motion, and it took me many years to be able to do this process, but And then I figure out what were the things that were happening instantaneously. I could break them down and I could teach them to other people. And that's how I started to be able to use them more in my life as well. That was a big improvement for me.
Wow. 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 Almost. I have questions.
Yes.
I have questions. But before we get into other questions that I have, what is intuition? Because the way you've described it, people might start to think, is it all that woo-woo stuff? Okay, here we go, here we go, here we go. So in your own words, how would you describe intuition? And is it something that everybody has?
Right, that's such a good question, because one of the problem I had is that when this happened to me, I did not relate to the new age, psychic, meditation. I have the attention span of a squirrel. I cannot meditate. That's not going to happen.
You are half of the world.
Yeah, I can't journal. So initially when this happened, I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to read books, right? And all the books I read I could not relate to them. This was not the way I experienced intuition. And so and it's very clear to me that intuition is accessible to everybody, and here's why. The way that I describe this is we have the logical mind, which is lives in our consciousness, and the job of the logical mind is to keep the car on the road. So it's organizing information so we can put our pants on one leg at a time, and get out of the house dressed up. That's what the logical mind does. It likes to have steps and make a plan and achieve the goal by following the steps. And it's using conscious information to do that. Now, intuition is a complementary system to the logical mind. I feel that they're meant to work together. They're two different decision-making systems that nature kind of built into us. Now, intuition relies on subconscious information that we're aware of, but we don't think about it right now. It's pushed down. Now, in engineering, I would call that a data lake. This massive amount of information. It's like this massive, massive amount of information. All the little things that you forgot when you were in 4th grade and your teacher said, there's this rule in French because we have so many in French. Completely forgotten that, but it's there somewhere. And so intuition, what it does is when you ask for something specific, intuition can, in an instant, pool all of that information and come up with information that is relevant to what you're wondering about. And so to me, this is not like being psychic. So for example, I can't predict the future. That's not something I can do. I can't find missing people, and I don't talk to dead people. So all of these things, I do not know how to do that. However, here's something I can do. I remember that vividly. I was wanting to get a raise, right? I was a woman in engineering. I knew I was disadvantaged and I had accepted the lower salary than my colleague. I knew that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to ask my manager for a raise today. I had prepared my speech. And as I'm walking towards this office, I get a feeling, I get more and more comfortable. And I think, you know what? I'm not going to do this right now. So I made a left, went to the bathroom instead, went back to my desk. And then as I'm walking by his office, because his office was very close, I hear him screaming at somebody. and I don't know, I don't think it was there was nobody in his office, so he was talking to somebody else, but he was really angry. And I thought, that's probably not a good timing for me to be having this conversation. I would have walked in at that moment or shortly after. And so I went back to my desk, and then I waited. And what I would do, I would walk towards his office regularly. And then one day I felt like, oh, yeah, that feels light. I feel like I'm feeling good as I'm walking. And so I went and asked my raise, and I got it. He was the whether or not it was the critical decision, the critical factor is that I feel that what intuition can do for us, it can use all this subconscious information to optimize every decision with stuff that you don't even know, it's just back there. You don't even know, it's back there. It's subconscious. And the way that I describe the storage of intuition, so, why do we all have it? Well, the reason is because we all have a body and we all have neurons that can remember stuff. We have memory cells in our brain, but also our body remembers all kinds of stuff, not consciously, not encoded in language, but it's in there. And so if you have a body, you have intuition, because there's stuff stored in there that is not accessible consciously, but it's there. And then the thing that I do, that thing that happened to me while I was pregnant, is basically my subconscious mind is able to connect to somebody else's subconscious mind in order to get information for them that is relevant to them. Now, that is not something anybody can do. That is my gift. Some people can do it, some people can't, and that's fine. But the thing that you can read your own hard drive, that anybody can do. And that's the thing that I teach.
Wow. Okay. So subconscious mind, your logical mind, all of these things happening. Um, for a lot of people now, they're probably wondering, okay, but how do I have access to information that there's no way I can have it? Because you're talking about the neurons as saving this information somewhere, and maybe you don't remember, but it's there. So it sounds like it's something that you've already experienced or something that you've had access to that knowledge. So are you saying that your intuition only taps from knowledge that you already have, or you can just tap from this data lake that doesn't necessarily belong to you, and it's everybody in the universe all combined information or from wherever else, and you can subconsciously tap into that?
Right. So I feel that we can, I call that the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
So we have the local storage, the hard, right? I'm an
Password. I
engineer.
want the password.
Yeah, exactly. So we have the hard drive so that you can
Yeah.
use your intuition for the information that's local to you,
Okay.
that somewhere. And then there's information that comes from other people that you can you get from the Wi-Fi there. This is being broadcasted. And then there's the cloud. There's information gets stored in the world around us, the physical world, because that can also remember things. So that's an even bigger pool of information. But I think for everyday women who want to further their career, for example, I think the local storage is all we need, because there's everything in there that we need to know. For example, is this the right decision for me? Like, am I making the right decision right now between these two things? That's a great question for intuition. You already know logically, right? You already have that answer. So I'm not concerned about that. I specifically teach intuition to logical women. So I know that they are able to do a budget and do their taxes. I'm not concerned about that. The thing though, is that they're often missing the intuitive part because it doesn't come fully formed as a thought. Otherwise, the logical mind and the intuitive mind would collide. And that's one of the problems in intuition. There's three big nemesis. There's collision, where if we were using just thoughts, they would run into each other, and then you can't tell which is which. And then there's distortion, where we perceive something, but we distort it. So it's articulated, but it's muddled. And so these kinds of problems can make us doubt ourselves. And then there's pollution, when we're influenced by other people's thoughts and ideas, and so we don't get our intuition. We're just getting what other people think we should do, which is usually a common problem for women who have been socialized, to absorb these kinds of things. So these three big villains of intuition, they can make it a little harder to know, is this my intuition or is it not? And that's why intuition, in its infinite wisdom, it tries to use a different channel to talk to us than our logical mind. So the logical mind favors thoughts, like the stream of consciousness that you have in your brain. Now I should go to the grocery store, it closes at 4:30. I should leave now. So that's that's right. That's the logical mind. No questions there. Now the thing, and intuition, in order not to collide with logical mind, will use a different channel. So it'll send you a physical sensation. The logical mind is like, well, I don't know what to do with that. So the logical mind doesn't care about that. And so the intuition will you have a churning at the pit of your stomach. Or you'll get a really strong emotion and you don't know why. You don't know why you're so angry. That is usually an intuitive hint, as I call them. Just a little badge saying, hey, you have a message in here. If you care to go ask and figure out what it is, you have a message from your intuition that there's subconscious information here that is relevant to what's going on in your life. So these two are very popular. Sometimes we'll get just a scene, an image, also not encoded in language, right? The intuition tries to avoid language to leave the logical mind alone, but we might get a scene in our mind, like a fully formed image. So I had one a long time ago that I still remember to this day, where I was a blacksmith, and I was working really hard on an anvil with a hammer, and I was sweaty, and that was the image that I got. And at the time I was working way too hard for my employer. So the message was not so subtle, but it was startling, so an image like that, or sometimes we get a sound, you might hear somebody screaming in your head and you're like, what is that? So all these things that are those four channels, the physical sensation, the emotion, the image, or the sound, are ways that intuition can talk to us without colliding with our logical mind.
And because I know you mentioned women, so I'm guessing that women are more intuitive, or you just prefer working with women. I don't blame you, but does it mean that we all have access to those four channels, or are people naturally predisposed to one or the other?
So I have yet to find two people who had intuition speak to them in exactly the same way. So that's why when I talk about intuition, I don't have a prescriptive, here's the way that you need to do it. I prefer to coach because then I can cheat and I can use my intuition to figure out what is most helpful to the person I'm working with. But we all have some access to our intuition, but it speaks to us differently. And usually what I try to do is try to give as many examples as possible so that one of them might resonate with you more than another. Some people never get an image in their heads because some people can't see things in their head. They're like 10-15% of the population, they don't see things visually in their head. So to them, that would not apply. They might get a sound though, or something else. So it varies, I find.
And is this something that people can explore on their own, or do they have to work with someone like yourself who's a coach? Because some people might be listening and saying, sometimes I hear things. I don't know if it's, my voice, or or I smell things, or I see images, or whatever it is. I have a feeling, or I have a feeling in my arm, in my back, in my leg. How can people discover more on their own what their channels are?
So it's interesting because I have a research interview that I do with women, and because I have my own intuitive experience, but really I'm trying to make it more widely accessible. So I have this interview that I do with women where I ask them, how does intuition speak to you and how does it manifest in your life? And it's very enlightening for me because I realize that a lot of women are at the mercy of an intuitive insight. It's kind of random. They just get it sometime, right? Oh, I just had a feeling right now, right? But you're on the receiving end here. It's kind of like when you're waiting at home, waiting for the cable guy, to show up for their appointment and they're late, or you're not in charge here. It's random. So the very first thing that is super important is to have a trigger that is dedicated to asking a question to your intuition, and then you don't listen to what your logical mind is saying. You just listen to your intuition. And so there's two. My favorite trigger is the easiest one, is to ask a question. That's a really easy trigger. So for example, I just saw this image of me working on this anvil. I would say, why did I just get this image? And then I'm not going to listen to my logical mind.
Yeah.
And then I just check, do I get an emotion? Do I get a feeling somewhere? And then I ask, why did I get that? And by doing that, you're triggering over and over again. Now, in the beginning, somebody who's just starting out, it's kind of helpful to have a coach, right? It's kind of like when you're learning how to drive. Yes, you can do it on your own. So much easier if somebody can say, hold on, you have to start braking now if you want to make it.
Yes.
So that's why. So you can totally do it on your own. I think it just takes more time because you have to go through all the steps of what I call the intuitive cycle and figure out how to optimize it for yourself on your own. That just takes more time, but it's absolutely possible. Yes.
Okay. So, okay. So I know you were talking about helping women make everyday decisions, because a lot of people who go to like psychics or intuitives, they're looking for the bigger things in their lives. I want to know if I'm going to make $1 million, whatever it is. And nothing against that too, but you're coaching women how to make everyday decisions, being able to tap into your intuition to do that. We're so busy. We have all this, what we've been through, all the narratives, all the conditioning happening in our minds. Whew. Is there too much? Like, where is the line? Should I go to my intuition for every single thing to do with my daily life? Or are there just specifics where I say, okay, I'm trying to make a decision at work. Should I do this or this? I want to start a new career. Should I quit my job? Is it for specific uses, or can it just be, what am I going to have for dinner?
So that's such a great question. So the way that I see it is that this this infinite symbol, the figure eight, so there's you start with your logical mind, what am I going to have for dinner? Let's say. And then you go, I want pizza. Okay, cool. We're done. We have made a decision. You don't need your intuition there.
Okay.
But if you start your logical mind, what do I make for dinner? And what do I want for dinner? And you're like, oh, I have no idea. If you feel stuck, lost, or confused about your career or about dinner, then it's a good time to ask your intuition. That's how they complement each other. Intuition is not trying to tell you. I had a client one ask me, what color underwear am I wearing? And I'm like, well, just look. That's way quicker. If you're not sure, just look. This is not something I can do. The logical mind have access to facts. So if you want to Google something, if you want to research what are the 3 retirement strategy that most people use, Google that. That's great facts. Your intuition is not going to give you the information that's in Google. It's complementary, though. It's like when you have the three and you look at these and you have, I have no idea which one's better for me. I'm stuck, I'm lost, stuck, or confused. Now I'm going to ask my intuition, say, what do you got on that? Is there one that feels better? Oh, okay. Let me start with that one. Let me investigate this one first. And it's the same thing as if you're in sales and today you're going to call 120 people. Instead of starting with the A's, you can go down the list and go, which one feels better? Oh, this one. Start with this one. Then do the other ones, but you've just optimized your decision. And that optimization is so interesting because if I can give you a little anecdote about research that's been done on this. This subconsciously, we know 50% faster when we're making a bad decision. 50% faster. That's massive.
That's massive.
And
yeah.
It's enough to make us stop before we actually hit the wall. So in his book, Blink, Malcolm Gladwell talks about this social experiment. Of course, I'm a psych major, right? So I love all things psych lab. The social experiment where they had people come in and play a card game. And it was a gambling game. And so there was a red deck of card and a blue deck of card. And people were told, just you pick from a deck and you turn that card, and then you're either going to win money, depending on the card, or you're going to lose money. And so people started turning cards. And after turning 80 cards, everybody could tell you wanted to pick the blue deck because it had very small penalty and consistent gain. But the red deck was all over the place and it was bad news. You were going to lose money if you picked that one. Now, the interesting thing about this experiment is that they were hooked up to stress testing machines. So the conductivity of their skin or their heart rate. And after turning 40 cards, so half the number of cards, they had a stress response where reaching for the red deck. They couldn't articulate yet in words, something is wrong here, but they could feel it though, somewhere, right? Now, this is mild enough that if you're not paying attention, you're gonna miss it and you are gonna run into the wall and make that bad decision. However, when you start to optimize with intuition, you start to ask that question. You start to ask a good intuition question, like, why is this happening? Or what can I do? These kinds of questions. You are starting to pay attention to how it feels in your body and your emotions, images, things that come up. And now you're starting to develop a relationship with your intuition so that you can trust it. I'd never argue for faith, but when you know that you can optimize a decision 50% faster by using the subconscious information, I think it's a compelling case to do it as often as possible, especially for big decisions where you feel lost, stuck, or confused. You have nothing to lose.
I would agree. But something you said for me, and I love that you used the word optimizing decision making, because there's a school of thought that thinks for everything, intuition, just go meditate or whatever for every single decision. But I love what you said, and it makes absolute sense. And I think it goes back to what you said in the beginning, where both are working together. It's not get rid of your logical mind and just be in intuition mode all the time. It can help you to optimize those decisions. And I think that will free up a lot of people who've probably been stuck and struggling with, when to use my intuition, when not to use it. If I don't use my intuition, does that mean I'm a bad person? Yada, yada, yada. So I love the analogy you said about if you wanted to Google something, Google it. If you have 3 decisions, then you can reach to your intuition and say, which one of these 3 should I go with? So again, that's a huge lesson for me, because sometimes it gets confusing when to use it, when not to use it. Do you use it for everything? Does that mean kill my thinking brain? And just always leaning to intuition. So thank you for sharing that. And really, I do hope that a lot of people are listening to this, because 50% better at making a decision, honestly, that's going to save, for me, a lot of stress, a lot of overthinking, a lot of trying to figure out, and especially a lot of asking people who know nothing about anything for their opinion. Right. That ruins, that just ruins it all. Like, you're going to the people who know nothing about it, and then you're confused, even more confused, and now you're getting sensations in your body that doesn't necessarily have to do with the decision you're about to make. Now it's this other person's opinion that you're more worried about. So thank you for clarifying that. So in terms of feeling in your body now, there's different sensations that people feel. And, sometimes your heart's going faster. Sometimes your palms are getting sweaty. Sometimes you just feel that sense of anxiousness. Sometimes it's that feeling at the bottom, at the pit of your belly. Sometimes it's an ache in your back. How do you know which one means a yes and which one means a hell no?
So I call that the intuitive compass, and it's pretty simple. So let's just focus on the emotions for now, because that one's a little bit more tractable. So when you have a goal, a clearly identified goal, that you're asking your intuition for intuitive insight, right? Because there's only one microphone. Either the logical mind is talking or the intuition is talking, but it's like they have to use this apparatus that we have here, the physical body. So it's not like there's a teleprompter here. So you need to be clear that you're asking your intuition this question. Now, you don't have to know how this works. Your intuition is there and it knows what you mean when you're asking a question. And so let's say that I want to choose between two things.
To live in
Maybe
Canada or the US.
What?
To
What?
live in Canada or the US.
Right. Should I move to the US or should I stay in Canada? I didn't do it that way at the time. I didn't know this technique. So I developed techniques over the years to make it really easy for people to learn. I call them recipes, mostly because the main technique that I teach is called the precise intuitive experience, which I acronym as PI. So this is my famous PI recipe, and where I walk you through all the physical sensation and the emotion, and then we make sense of them and articulate them in words. So this is the prairie technique I teach. But in order to clarify, US or Canada. So the first thing is to have a question. And it's easier if you have a yes or no question. So should I move to the US or should I stay in Canada? That's a good comparing just two things. That makes it a little simpler. And usually, I'll adjust it depending on the person, but one thing you can do is you can imagine that in the right hand you're holding the US option, and in the left hand you're holding the Canada option. And then I usually have something simple, like I count backwards from 10 just to clear the mind, to make sure the logical mind's not there. Because when you're doing something boring like that, the logical mind goes, okay, nothing's happening here. And then it just pipes down. So 10, 9, 8. Okay, which one feels better? And then typically what will happen is a hand feels lighter, or it feels brighter, or if you have your eyes closed and you're a visual person, maybe the one hand is bright and, like with fireworks, whatever the thing that might, you might see when you close your eyes. Sometimes there's a weight. There's a hand that feels heavier. And then this is the hand that has the answer, where your intuition is saying, this is a better option for you right now. This is my contribution. Now, the thing is, intuition is not a binding contract. You don't have to do something when you receive intuitive information, because at that point you might not trust it, and you would not follow the advice of somebody you don't trust. And so what I recommend though, is that let's get the intuitive information. Let's get it. Let's ask the two hand. I call that the best binary decision, by the way. This is one of the techniques that I teach. Let's do the best binary decision. Which one feels better? Okay, well, moving to the US feels better. Cool. Okay, so now I have intuitive insight. It doesn't mean that I'm going to move tomorrow, but it means that let me investigate this option first. Let me optimize for this one, because my intuition is saying, hey, there's good stuff here. And indeed, it was a fantastic decision for me to move here. I made way more money than if I had stayed in Canada. But this is where it starts. And then you get the intuitive insight and you build trust over time by making really small decisions that you feel, okay, this one's not too scary. I'm not going to move yet, but I am going to investigate. What would it take for me to move to the US, maybe, right? So that's less scary, right? Yeah. And then as you go forward and you go, oh, that's so cool. I could do this. I could do that. Here's an option. I know somebody. And as things unfold, you feel better and better. And that's the intuitive compass. As you feel better and better, you're going in the right direction. This is how intuition points you the right way. So let's say that you were super depressed and overwhelmed, and you were really struggling with like the heavy winter in Canada. Wow. And that's how you're deciding, should you move to the US, right? That's part of the thing. And you're wondering, should I do that? So there's a bunch of information that is out there, both in your local storage, in the Wi-Fi, and in the cloud, just information that's out there that is relevant to your situation. And your intuition is able to distill all of that into a feeling that either feels better when you were before overwhelmed by the winter, but now you're thinking, well, what if I did move to the US? And now I feel like, oh, that feels better. I feel lighter. I feel relief. I feel curious. Green, that's the bingo. Bing, 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 bing. That's the green light. Yeah. And intuition saying, just go this way for a little bit. Let's see where that takes us.
gonna be quiet on how I feel about that right now, but yes. But yes, and yeah, I love the process that you just walked us through. And for a lot of people, like we already talked about the distortion and the pollution and the collision, all of that stuff happening, because again, the logical mind is there saying, yeah, but you're broke. Yeah, but you don't have the papers to move to the US. But you have family there. You don't. Whew. How? And I know you're saying building the trust, but it might be a bit of a challenge for a lot of people who have all of these things in their lives going on. So the noise is there. They want to keep going further. They want to keep building that relationship, that trust with their intuition. They want to start taking the steps in the right direction, but life is happening. How? I guess my question is, how can we lean more into this intuition? How? I don't want to say no for sure, but how can you know that that intuition is truly your intuition and you're on the right path and it's time to take the next step?
Right. So, you know, to be honest with you, the whole reason I wrote a course about this that takes 28 days to go through is to describe this process. It's not something, I don't think there's one thing. So here's what I want to say. You know, in marketing right now, it's really popular to say, hey, you can be a millionaire in 28 days. So this is setting you up for failure and you're going to be disappointed and it's going to break your heart. I do not want to break your heart. I do not want to do that. I'm a woman. My heart has been broken. I was disadvantaged. I was a woman engineer. I was the only woman in a group of 12 white men for most of my career. So I was in that situation. It was hard. And so I don't want to do that. I don't want to make it sound like it's a piece of cake and it's a walk in the park. Just like it's not easy to build trust with somebody. You know, you have a new partner, you have a new boyfriend, for example. You're not going to just say, hey, let's go to Portugal. Let's move to Portugal together. You're not going to say that. You're going to try to go on a date first, or maybe just coffee, right? Something small, something not scary. And I think that in our relationship with our intuition, if we think of it as a relationship, it makes more sense. We start with getting intuitive insight. So triggering, asking the question. Mm-hmm. And then we start making really small, non-scary decision that, and then we check to see, well, what happened? Did that pan out for me? It's small, it's not scary. I feel comfortable saying yes to coffee, let's say, with my intuition. For example, that when I was walking towards my boss's door for my raise, it didn't cost me anything to go tomorrow. It's not like I was on a schedule. It didn't matter. And so I was able to make that small decision. It was not scary. I postponed it until I felt the lock-in feeling, and then I moved forward. Just that, in that moment, I went, oh, and my logical mind is listening, right? So the thing is, we want the logical mind on board. We want the logical mind to say, you know what, maybe it's true that you have information that I don't have access to. Because look at you, you know, I mean, when I got divorced from my husband in my late 30s, and I was a single mom, and I would remain a single mom for 10 years. So I had no child support, no alimony, I had nothing. I was on my own. And I was so scared. I was an immigrant. I mean, it was so scary for me. And so as I was trying to figure out how I was going to navigate this financially and also how to raise my son, because you can apply it to everything, right? Yeah. I didn't decide, oh, okay, so I'm going to retire at 47. I didn't decide that. In my mind, I was thinking, I will never retire because by the time I'm done paying my mortgage and paying for college, I'm going to be 78. And then I'll be able to retire. This is what it looked like for me. I mean, I was in that place. Yeah. And so I started there in that place where I had all my cycles were occupied by caring for my son, doing my job. And then I would give intuitive readings because I made me so happy, but it was a very small thing. I kept it very small. I didn't advertise. People just found me on the internet. But I think we start there. We start with, okay, what if I tried something else? Because you already know, your logical mind has already told you you can't retire. Yeah. It already told you you're disadvantaged. You know, as a woman, I work with one Black woman engineer in my 20-year career. There's no question that there are disadvantaged, you know, and I was a woman, I was disadvantaged. I saw that when I became a manager and I saw everybody's salary. I was like, holy cow, my best engineer was a woman. She made less money than all the men. And I knew that. But the thing is that no matter what cards you are dealt, no matter how busy you are, no matter how many things are piling up for you, the question is, it doesn't take a long time to just ask in your head, in the privacy of your own head, okay, I want to ask my intuition, what's the best decision for me today? What would make me happier today? Do I want this or this? What's the best fit for me? These questions, they're all example of good questions to ask our intuition. You start there a little bit at a time. This is like going out to coffee with a guy, and just to see if we like him. And then as we go, oh, I did get this insight and I took this small decision and that made me feel a little better. First of all, I felt relief and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then something happened. I went, oh, look at that. That's because I did this. I followed this little thread. And that's what happened. I got a win here. Now the logical mind is like, oh, that's interesting. Let's do it again. And pretty soon we have instead of the logical mind telling us this is crap, this is not real, you can't trust that, you crazy lady. Then the logical mind starts to say, oh my God, it's true that you did retire at 47. I have to keep telling myself that. I forget that I did that. Like, I forget that I did that I did retire at 47 and that I was financially free at 49 because my plan was 78. Well, not 78. I think I had calculated that at 58, I would be able to have enough money to live just to break even. I think I had 40K a year or something. I could live on that, right? This was so bad. I'm glad I didn't do that, but this was just the bare minimum,
Yeah.
But by using my intuition to line up every decision, every financial decision that I made, I was like, okay, I want to invest in stuff, right? If I want to make money elsewhere than by selling my time, I need to invest. What feels better in these three things that I could invest in? So let's say passive income through my stock account or rentals, or, I don't remember how many things I had. And I thought, okay, which one feels better? And the dividends felt better to me. So I thought, okay, I'm going to look into that. I'm going to Google this one. And so it built up a little bit of trust. And over time, that also accumulates. So there's three big wins. When you ask your intuition, there's three big wins. The first one is clarity. So if you ask the why question to your intuition, so you ended the interaction with somebody, they said something, and you just flew off the handle. It made you so angry, but you don't know why. It's not like they were rude to you, or you don't know what happened, really. It doesn't make sense. So this is a good time to ask why. Why did this make me so angry? To your intuition. Don't listen to your logical mind, to your intuition. When you ask this question, you will get clarity. And when you get clarity, it means that now you have a chance to solve the right problem. You have a chance to solve the problem instead of triggering you over and over again, always making bad decisions and you don't know why. Let's figure out the why. So clarity is one of the big wins of intuition. The second big win of intuition is opportunities that are not visible to your conscious mind. So opportunities that will only be revealed to you as you connect the dots, but it's based on subconscious information. Your logical mind cannot see that. And that's the second big win, is those opportunities that you can only achieve when you follow your intuition. And these big advantages, they are always available to us to leverage. The more we ask, the more likely we are to win big. And it's kind of like a lottery, I guess, but you increase your odds. You optimize, you increase your odds. And so the third one is what I call the express lane. 50% faster. You can figure out that this dude is a dud, don't date him, 50% faster. That's such a big saving of time. Or a relationship. I mean, sometimes we stay in a relationship, we're past their due date, and we can get out of there 50% faster. Or we can, let's say that we want to transition in our career and we're focused on getting promoted at work, and we don't realize that there's a job in another company that somebody in our network could hook us up with, and then we would get that promotion that way. That opportunity, that is what intuition can do for us.
Yeah. That because a lot of times we're so focused on the how it's going to happen. It has to happen this way. But you're focusing more on the why, asking the right questions. And I love how you describe like the three wins: the clarity, opportunity, and express lane. Who wouldn't want to be on the express lane? Yes. Sign me up. Express lane to retirement. Yes. So please, everyone who's listening, this is important stuff. This can help you retire way earlier. Well, it may be 59 for you, 49, 50, whatever it is. There's no age in particular, but at least it will get you there quicker than anything that your logical mind can plan out, because you could be, based on the way the world is today, a lot of people will not be retiring anytime soon. So talk us through, because I know you made $1.8 million. And for me, that's like, yes, please sign me up. How were you able to make so much money and really achieve this financial freedom? I know you already hinted on it based on some of the things that you said, but for people who might be thinking, you know what, money is my biggest challenge right now. I just want the money. Show me the money. How can people use some of the things that you're talking about to create more wealth in their lives?
Well, the first thing I'm going to tell you is that if you're chasing money, you're running after the middleman. You're not running after what you want. You're running after the guy who can hook you up with what you want. Because why do you want money, right? You want to do something. You don't just want to pile it in your living room and roll in it, right?
Yeah.
You want something.
Yeah.
And as long as that is not clear, if that's not clear, your intuition can't really help you. Because just chasing money is empty. It's not fulfilling. It's not unless you really enjoy. Like, I have a friend who loves holding the money, the paper thing. She loves that. Now, she loves money just because it's fun for her. It's like a hobby, and that's fine. She knows that she just likes to have as much as possible. But for most of us, for me, for example, why did I want financial freedom? Is I wanted to be able to not work unless I wanted to. That was important to me because I had to work. I was a single mom. I had to pay the bills. When I didn't feel like it, I had to go to work anyway. And so knowing why you want the money is gonna put you in the express lane way faster with your intuition than chasing an empty container, really, because money is just a middleman. You don't need that. You don't need to focus on that as your destination. You want to focus on the thing you're going to get after you get the money. And sometimes what we don't realize is that there is an express lane, but if we take the exit towards money, we're going to work hard. We're going to work long hours. We're going to have to, do all kinds of things that we hate because other people said that's how you make money.
You gotta suffer to make money. Yes.
Yes, you gotta suffer to make exactly right.
Money, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's the way. And it's interesting because if you take that exit, then you are going to do all these things. You're going to suffer. You're going to work long hours. You're going to be exhausted. I mean, I have chronic fatigue syndrome. I work on my business 1 hour a day. Why? Because I have to. That's as much as I can do. Today, you have my hour. I have dedicated my hour to you today. And this is what I do. My business is built on pretty much tech and intuition because I have to prioritize. But this is really cool because people like you find me and we have awesome conversations that can really change a woman's life, right? That's the thing. That woman right now, and the reason I want to work with women is just because in my experience, we are so disadvantaged. Yeah. We make less money than men. If you're a single mom, I don't even need to say anything else. You know how hard it is to do both things. My ex-husband, he remarried and his wife took care of our child, so he was good, but I was doing both jobs. And so we are disadvantaged, but we are always carrying in our back pocket our intuitive advantage. It's like a credit card, and you can take it out and say, okay, I'm going to play this card. I'm going to play this card to put the odds in my favor, to stack the odds. Every time you ask a question to your intuition, you're stacking the odds into your favor. So about money, when I turned 40, I thought I want financial freedom. I didn't say I want $1 million, which is funny because I did end up getting $1 million, but not because I was chasing that. It was a side effect of me wanting to get financial freedom. What did that mean? It mean that I had enough money coming in that I didn't need to work. And that's what I have now. I have set up passive income dividends that just deposit in my bank account. Even right now, even in a recession, the money deposits. Mm-hmm. And this is how I have financed my financial freedom. Now, I wanted to still work. So I'm retired from being a software engineer, and I could go back and make a lot of money, but I would be really unhappy. It's a bad deal. It's a bad deal, right? Because I know why I want the money. I know that I want the money so that I can work 1 hour a day. I know that I want the money so that I could be with my son. He struggled through COVID so much. He was in high school. It was really hard. I'm so glad that I was able to be here mentally and emotionally and not be like struggling, with the whole work situation. I was able to be here for him. And that was really important to me. Now that you need to know what is the exit you actually want. Don't take the money exit. That's not going to get you to a happy place. Take the exit that really makes you go, oh my gosh, I want to travel. That's what I want. I want to travel, So, okay, now that is a good goal. And from there, you start asking your intuition questions. What can I do today to to align up with that goal. What can I do today, right? It's scoped to just today, not something overwhelming, just today. Well, today you might think, oh, I wonder if I could figure out which country I want to go to first, right? Now you don't know this, but when you're doing this, you are lining up money to travel.
Yes.
Let me give you an example. Okay, so there's 4 big intuitive decisions that I did throughout my life, and the only reason I thought about this is because one day somebody said, well, what have you achieved with your intuition? And I didn't know what to say. all I could say, well, I'm happy in my life, and I'm pretty sure that there's not that many people that can say that. But I realized what they wanted to hear was something concrete. And that's when I counted the money, the 1.8 million. I opened up a spreadsheet and I thought, okay, let me think. What are big decisions that I did that were intuitive that make me money? So the big one, kind of, we touched on it a little bit, but I was in a degree in psychology in Montreal. And I was very unhappy. I was very unhappy because I'm a very, very sensitive person emotionally. And to be working with people like that, telling me their problems all day long. And my internship was on a suicide hotline. So I was helping people who were thinking about dying. And so I did not realize it at the time. To me, I was like, no, this is what I want to do. I'm going to keep going. But I had a writer's block, couldn't write my thesis, blank page. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to take a sabbatical. And so I was going to stay in Canada. And then a friend of mine who was in the US said, why don't you come here? It would be nice for you to just do something else. I thought, okay, cool. So I did go to the US because it sounded fun and it sounded interesting. And I stayed it for a few months. And while I was there, I think he had a friend over who was an engineer, right? And a software engineer. And we just started to talk about it. And he's like, you know what I do? I solve problems. And I'm like, oh, I like to solve problems. And so this felt better and better and better. And then he told me how much he was making. And I was like, whoa, that's a lot more than So I decided to move to the US to become a software engineer. And that right there made a huge impact because I could make 2 or 3 times the money as an engineer as I would have been doing as a psychologist.
Yeah.
So that was a big intuitive decision. Another fun one. I have 2 dogs and I had never had a dog, but when my son was young, he was anxious a little bit, and I thought it'd be good to have a dog. So we got 1 dog. That dog did not like to play. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to get a second dog that likes to play ball and fetch so my son could interact. So we ended up with 2 dogs. And then I stopped traveling because you can't travel with 2 dogs. And so we stayed like that for a while. And then eventually my companion had the idea of what if we bought a van, a Sprinter van, and we converted it to a camper so we could take the dogs with us, right? We don't have to stay in hotels. So I thought, oh my gosh, that sounds like such a good idea. I would love to do that. And that's what we did. Notice, I'm not talking about money here, right? We got a car loan, and I financed the building inside, and we started to do that. We bought a 3D printer to print. It was super fun. So we did everything ourselves. We did the plumbing, the electrical. We had a shower in there, a bathroom. It took us a year to build that thing, but it was really awesome. Wow. We traveled with the dogs, and it was so cool because we never had to worry about them messing stuff up. We would go off the grid. We had a 4x4. It was solar. We could be like 2 weeks without having to stop anywhere. It was great. And then eventually my companion got a job again, and I started to work and wanted to be more at home. So we thought, well, we should probably sell the van, right? And this was during COVID. So we actually sold the van and we made like 35K of profit, so I sold it for 109, I think, 109K. Now, was I thinking I was going to do that? No, because when I bought this van, I thought, well, I'll sell it at a loss eventually, yes, right? Because cars lose value. Logical mind says car lose value. However, I made a ton of money on this project that made me very happy. It was very fulfilling. It was fun. And that's what I want to describe, is that even though your logical mind is saying you can't retire, your intuitive mind has a different idea, and it will line you up with something that can be extremely profitable.
Wow. Lots of ideas going through my mind now, but
right. I love that.
I want to live this way. And I love what you said when you asked the question, and that is the answer that most people really want. We all want to be happy. That is the goal. It's not about the physical money. And I know that a lot of teachers keep focusing people on chasing after the money, but it's not the money in the raw form that really matters. It's what this money can do for you. What kind of life do you want to live? What would truly make you happy? And I think more people need to hear this message, and people who are listening need to refocus and go think about what you really, really want. What would really, really make you happy? Don't focus on the money. If it's financial freedom, then just say that. If you want to travel more, if you want to be able to whatever, work from wherever, not even work at all, yes, please. Then focus on that and use your intuition to guide you so that you can get more clarity, get the opportunities, and most importantly, get on that express lane. You can have the life that you really, really trust and you love and you desire. Okay, there's one other thing that you mentioned, and I think it's called intuitive injury. What is that, and how can people overcome that?
So an intuitive injury is when, those are all words I made up, by the way.
Okay.
We created a whole new vocabulary just because I couldn't find words that describe my experience. So left brain intuition, intuitive injury, the intuitive algorithm, those are all words that I made up. So an intuitive injury is describes a situation where you thought you were following your intuition, and you did something and it blew up in your face so bad. And in that moment, you injured your relationship with your intuition. You said, whoa, intuition doesn't work. Intuition doesn't work. My intuition is broken. And then it injures your trust in your intuition. And what happens is when we do that, or the other way this can happen is if we say you have a feeling, right? A pit of your stomach, but you do it anyway. You have a bad feeling at the pit, but you do it anyway. You force yourself through without knowing why. Because sometimes we have to do things we don't like, but if you know why, that makes a difference, because sometimes you feel bad because it's wrong. Sometimes you feel bad because you don't like it, but you have to do it anyway. That's different, right? Yeah. So these things, when we suppress our emotion, this is another way that we can have an intuitive injury. And I think for women, we are particularly socialized. It's true for men too, but all my pronouns are female when I talk about intuition, because when I was in engineering, everything was a he. So I'm just putting everything's a she now. She's the one I'm talking to. I get men too. I work with men as well, but mostly it's to give women that intuitive edge. But we are socialized to, don't be overly sensitive. Why are you so focused on this? Why? Like, there's things that we are constantly questioned about how we feel and how we especially if we feel intensely, we're socialized to keep that down and to ignore it and to do it anyway, force yourself, push through. And I'm hearing like this gym coach teacher, like coach, screaming at you, that person. So this can create an intuitive injury, because what's happening is we're telling our intuition, shut up, don't talk to me. And what happens when you say that to a friend? Shut up, don't talk to me. They go away. Yeah. And so intuition will get, quieter and quieter, and it'll sit in the back of the room very quietly, not bugging you, because you told it that you don't want to hear that anymore. Because of that one time, maybe you had that intuitive injury, or you over time suppressed. Instead of inquiring, you suppressed. And now you're in a place where, and usually people who tell me, I used to be intuitive, but I'm not anymore. This is an intuitive injury, 99% of the time. Something happened, or they've been suppressing it, and now they can't even feel it. They have disconnected from the body. They don't feel the churning anymore. They don't feel the emotion, because they've learned to just they've cut off right below the neckline, everything there, and nothing's happening. And that's how they get through the day. And sometimes we have to do that to survive. I did that. That's why I'm familiar with it, and I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not embarrassed by it. Sometimes you have to do what you got to do when you're raising a child, and you got to make money. So. But I think that there's a choice. Every day you're making a choice. You can keep doing what you're doing, but if you feel lost, stuck, or confused, you can make a different choice. And you can choose to heal that intuitive injury by asking, so what happened? What happened? When did this happen, that I was intuitive before, but I'm not anymore? Or, oh, I see that, I tend to suppress anger. So if you think about intuition like a compass, and it's all the emotions, are laid down on the compass, and we're trying to align to what feels better, right? Let's say that anger is an emotion that you absolutely forbid. You absolutely will not allow anger to creep up, because as a woman, that that's not pretty, right? It makes you ugly, whatever things we've heard said. And so what happens is, let's say that you were depressed, and then the next thing would be to feel angry, because there's energy in anger, and your compass is trying to say, I want to go that way because that's better. And you say, nope. And then you push it back down. And now you feel again depressed because you feel powerless. And so this issue where we've kind of broken our intuitive compass, where we said, nope, I will not receive this message, this intuitive message. That's not an appropriate message for me. Sending back. This means that, we then can't receive our intuitive hints. We're ignoring them. And that's when we start turning in circle, doing the same thing from the logical mind. It has no new information, so it's going to keep doing what it was doing.
But the good news is,
you have a choice. You have a choice today. You have a choice.
Heal from that injury.
Yeah. Choose to listen. Choose to pay attention, and then ask a question and trigger your intuition on demand, on purpose. So if you have a weird feeling in your stomach, maybe it's intuition and maybe it's not. We don't know yet. But if we ask, we can find out. How magical is that?
Maybe something bad you ate, but hey, you can ask.
Yeah, that's okay. That's fine.
I love it. Oh, thank you so much. And I really want to encourage anyone who's listening to this, if you're feeling inspired, or you're feeling you want to learn more, you want to do more, you want to go faster in life, you want to create the life that you want financial freedom, you want to retire, whatever it is, you want love in your life, whatever it is, a new career, whatever. If you want to go faster, and you already mentioned that, Elise, you can try to do it on your own and keep spinning and have all the doubts and ask your neighbor who knows nothing about this stuff. Or you can work with somebody who can get you there quicker. I've learned over the course of my life from having numerous coaches, it just helps you get there quicker. Someone who's been where you want to go, someone who has all these different tools, these toolkits that can help you go even faster, then I will be sure to include her information in the show notes, and you can reach out and get started on this journey. We all have to retire quickly. Final questions. Intuitive reading. So do you still do your intuitive readings? And is it just random, or can you sit with somebody right now and still be able to do a reading?
I can do it. Yeah, I can do it. Here's the thing though, what happened is that when I retired from engineering, so that was a few years ago, I realized that I also retired from doing readings. And the reason is that I felt like I was a drug dealer. I was standing on a street corner and I was saying, hey, do you want some clarity? You want some clarity right now? I can give you some clarity. But then you have to come back. So you're going to ask me a question. I'm going to give you some clarity. I can give you an express line or an opportunity if I see one. And then you're going to be like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then you're going to go. And then 3 months later, you have to come back and ask me another question. That's why I stopped doing them. So I do intuitive reading as part of my coaching program, just because if we have an express line, we need to take it. My God, lady, let's not waste time. Let's use my skill and my gift to accelerate things. But I don't give them to the public anymore, because I didn't like how, when I realized that it was disempowering to my client, I felt so bad that I had to stop immediately. You can't unsee that.
No, I agree. It becomes like a drug. I need to go for a fix. Tell me what's next, Elisa. I need a new decision. Yeah, just give me the answer. Yeah. You don't want to do the work on, but we all have access to this stuff, and we can build and strengthen it to help us optimize decisions to get and create the life that we want. Thank you so much for sharing so much with us, Elise, today. Do you have any final words for our listeners?
One thing that comes up a lot is that most of the women that I talk to about intuition, they will tell me, I don't have anybody else to talk to about this. I don't have anybody that I know that's super intuitive. I don't talk about this at work, obviously, especially not in corporate America. So if that's your case, I have created community outside of social media just for intuitive women. It's at levebrainintuition.com. And it's just a community for us to be there. We know we are logical women who are interested in intuition. And this is a place to disconnect, from the stream and to reconnect with other women, because we don't talk about that very frequently, in a safe place, I guess. And so that was the last resource I wanted to leave you with today.
Awesome. Oh, that's awesome. So if you didn't get that, I will include it in the show notes as well. And you can join that community of women just like yourself who are trying to use both the logical mind and the intuition as well to achieve your goals and your dreams. Thank you so much for being here with us, Elise. I've learned so much. I'm going to go start doing my stuff now, asking the right questions, the why, not the how. And
Yes.
hopefully all my listeners can also benefit from a lot of the things that have been shared today. Thank you so much for being here with us. And thank you to everyone who joined in to listen. I will see you same time next week on iRise Conversations with Joan. Thanks for listening.